Hey, welcome Tech for All channel, my name is Michael. Today I want to show you something which is simple, steady and very affordable. It's a new gimbal coming from Hohem. Perhaps it's the new best budget gimbal for smartphones and action cameras. That's what we all want, great footage, good footage at a reasonable price. But if we don't go pro grade, it's sometimes very tough to find the right devices. And I think I'm currently holding in my hand something which is very promising. Reminds me a lot about the Gimbal C, at least in terms of shape, but yeah, we'll speak about that in just a few moments. I think it's fair to mention about the setup that I'm currently using, recording with an action camera, because although the gimbal is called iSteady Mobile, which assumes it's used for smartphones, with some little hacks you can add an action camera. And right now I'm using the new Osmo Action without electronic image stabilization, because although EIS has become rock steady in the past months, there still are plenty of reasons why we want to use purely hardware-based stabilization. And the situations are many. It's on one side when we want cinematic footage, when you want your shutter speeds to be double the amount of frames per second, which is kind of a golden rule, and very hardly achievable on GoPro Hero 7 and even on the Osmo Action, because both cameras rely on good stabilization if the shutter speed is artificially highered. And the differences become really obvious when things go low light, where electronic image stabilization suffers a lot and generates a lot of artifacts. I want to prove that actually the motors are pretty quiet. So you can right now hear the pure recording, the pure sound from the internal microphone of the Osmo Action, although I'm recording most of it with external microphone. But let's switch for a moment. You can hear that you can barely feel any kind of vibrations, which is great. The review will be, as usual, in three parts: hardware, software and features, and also some experience and some ideas how to better utilize it. I already told you that this gimbal reminds me a lot about the Gimbal C. There are a few major differences though, and let's see some details and examples. We'll start with the hardware. Here's what to expect from the unboxing. The device is called Mobile Plus, and it is indeed an upgrade to last year's model. Much newer and improved in many compartments, and in fact quite close to the functions of much more expensive devices. I must have, in my opinion, such a protective case. It is meaningless to explain why, and seeing that it's a hard case, the satisfaction goes even higher. Keep in mind that right now the smartphone gimbal market is very saturated. A lot of companies are releasing models, and from all the competition, the main winner are we, the customers. This one has the awesome Inception feature, something I will talk about in the second half of this review. Specifications are important here. 3-axis gimbal, meaning that you have complete stabilization done on a hardware level, the best kind of 30% torque improvement, that's what is promised, up to 260 gram payload, which makes around 99% of the popular smartphones compatible, dual Bluetooth feature, quite interesting, and an 8-grade vertical mounting plate. The motors, their freedom is limited to 320 degrees for rolling and tilting. Panning goes up to 600 degrees, meaning that the Inception feature advertised is not unlimited. It's possible to do little less than 2 complete cycles, but even with one, you may get enough of headache. The Inception feature was made popular by DJI with their Ronin model and was then adopted by many others. I've recently shown you a review of a 360 camera that can do it with a software hack. The battery inside is 4000 mAh. It's not interchangeable, however, it can be used as a power bank. Few words about the operation, which is executed via a few buttons and the joystick. Didn't mention the mode button. You can find out which is the currently used mode thanks to the LED identification, and you can also read the 4 different modes which are supported, and switching is extremely simplified even without reading the user guide, because let's be honest, how many of us do really need the user guide when we buy new tech gear? Come on, tell me, which was the last tech piece that you bought and you actually did read the user guide. I'll be waiting with a lot of curiosity in the comment section below the video. PF stands for pan follow. Here's how it looks like. Only the horizontal is locked. PTF, which is enabled with double press, pan and tilt follow. Then we have the AL, meaning all locked for the most static kind of shooting. Now we have the all follow, meaning that it's gonna be more like stabilized action camera because it follows any kind of direction. So if I do that, it's slowly going to compensate. It's rather stable and gives you the impression of something more dynamic. Now, let's turn the gimbal around and have a look at the rest. 2 different positions to mount a tripod, battery indicator, and this last button to check is the so-called trigger button. Press short for sports mode and double tap for recentering. Now, we already covered the features, so let's quickly go through the balancing and calibration, which is very important for a gimbal. Super simplified here because most smartphones have similar weight and it's almost like click and shoot. You may want to only balance the weight equally, but I noticed that with unevenly distributed weight, the gimbal also is going to work fine without any vibrations, and it is hard to find another model that is so undemanding. The only thing to pay attention to is whether the axis is free. If it's not, just adjust the claw and that's it. The major part of the fun is done with the smartphone app, which is a different app from the last year's generation, but keeps most of the features. It's called Hohem Gimbal, and the connection to the gimbal is established in a very easy way. Enable Bluetooth, select the model, you're in. There are separate controls about the camera and the gimbal, and the tuning of every single parameter, so even if you notice that something is not right, you can fix it accordingly within just seconds. I liked a lot of variety and, more importantly, the simplicity of each mode. There also are time-lapse, motion-lapse, which are besides the regular photos, and the remote controls worked alright. No complications at all. Furthermore, I believe the smartphone app here is much better than what we can find as part of the software of the G6 Plus by Feiyutech, which costs around 3 times more. For selfie addicts, of course, there is portrait mode. There's also a feature embedded in the app for online streaming. And just think about the possibilities combined with the tracking feature of the motion features, something which is supported but I couldn't test yet. The iSteady Mobile Pro supports a Bluetooth remote, so imagine how great it would be to stream online, and if you're not close to the gimbal, just adjust it using the remote. Promise to show you easy to use hacks. This plate costs a few bucks only and it's your gateway to use this as an action camera gimbal. Supported are almost any kind of action cams with this form factor, including the new Osmo Action. In fact, although the Osmo Action has rock-steady stabilization, it still makes sense to get it on a gimbal, especially if you plan to use filters, but I'll talk about this in a separate episode. Can't think of features that don't work fine or are missing for an average user. Yes, it is plastic mostly, which has the benefit of being lightweight, fantastic build quality, awesome controls, reliable mechanisms, perhaps the easiest kind of balancing, hard case, really good stabilization, tons of features from the app, which includes motion lapse and online streaming, and on top you can power it on without any payload, and that will not make crazy shakes like other models do. So for what else could we wish for? That's anyways amazing. Now, a gimbal which costs less than $100 with so many features. By the way, $89 on Hohem's official website. I saw it for $69 on TomTop 2 weeks ago, which was an unbelievable price. And I think currently on Amazon it sells at around $100, but my assumption is that the price is going to go down during the summertime. And I guess that's my new favorite budget gimbal. And finally, I have a good reason to replace the good old Smooth Q. And probably in a few months from now, I'll let you know about my more continuous feedback. That's me know about this episode. I'm looking forward to hear about your opinion, and don't forget to tell me which was the last tech piece that you bought and you actually read the user guide for. My name is Michael. That was bad. It's the Tech4O channel, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.